So, Mike, when we go out camping, we go on these trails. We're out in nature, and we're actually in the home of wildlife, right? And so we need to think about that when we're out there. Be respectful that we've entered their home, and to not destroy their habitat. That's part of no trace ethics to start with. So there's that. But then a lot of people also think about animals that they might encounter in the wilderness or even anywhere in the woods that they're afraid of for one reason or another. And one of the first ones that comes to mind is snakes, right?
Yeah, and you know, all of our backpacking career, I've only walked upon one rattlesnake, and even then it rattled and gave us notice well in advance. It seems that most people that are harmed by snakes, particularly, it's because they try to catch or kill them. So in our case, we just backed away and let the rattlesnake have its room, and we kept ours. We got some great footage, which is really what I come to the wilderness for anyway, is to take a look at wildlife. And so the rattlesnake went its way and we went ours.
Yeah, and then you also, people obviously want to avoid skunks because obviously you don't want to get sprayed by a skunk.
Right, and skunks are generally drawn to your campsite because you leave a mess with your food. And same with bears. But if you do encounter a skunk, just very gently back away, stay out of its path, because the closer you draw and the more alarmed it becomes, the more likely it's going to do what it does, and that's a real mess.
And what you said about the campsite is a key toward skunks, raccoons, all those things. Keep a campsite clean when you go to bed, and those things are likely to stay out to start with.
Exactly. And we talked earlier about courtesy to other campers. If you leave behind traces of your food at a campsite, then those animals are inclined to come in thinking they're going to get more.
Right.
So you're setting up the next group of campers.
And then the big one that people think about in a wilderness area in particular is bear. We talked. You mentioned that a minute ago, and so obviously we don't want to draw bears into our campsite either. But what are some general precautions you would say about bears, encounters with bears?
Well, when the cubs are young and the cubs are still with the sow bears or the female bears is when you have to be most cautious. As you hike, you never want to get between, and I quote, a bear and her cubs. That's true.
Right.
And so that can be really scary. So a little bit of noise at that time might be a good idea. Some backpackers in the western states carry a bell for that reason, so that they can be heard and those bears aren't alarmed if you walk into their territory.
Right.
Here in the campsite, the best thing we can do is make sure that anything that smells good to a bear, food, toothpaste, deodorant, all of those things could draw a bear into our campsite. And so what we have to do is 150 feet or so away from our campsite, we're going to hang up all of those things in what we call a bear bag.
All right.
I can show you how to do that later if you'd like.
Yeah, we'll do that. So basically we're getting anything that that has a odor that might attract the bear to the campsite. We're going to put it in this bear bag up in a tree overnight to where the bear can't get to it, doesn't bring him to the campsite, and we avoid those encounters.
That's correct, and we haven't trained the bear to come to campsites looking for handouts.
Right.
And that's where we get into trouble when things are a mess. So we have to be courteous to our other campers and safe for ourselves.
Right.
Later this evening, after we set up our tent and after we have supper, we're going to have this bear bag, and it'll be dark then. Can I show you now while it's daylight how we set those up?
Let's do it.
All right.
So basically the concept of the bear bag is to get the bag up in a tree where a bear can't stand on its hind legs and reach, correct? Right. And he also can't climb the tree and go out the branch, hopefully, and reach down and get the bag, correct?
That's also correct. But now, whenever we think about finding a campsite, we know that other people have camped here and other people are going to camp here. And a lot of people will be hanging their bear bags here, Bruce.
Right.
So when we think about minimizing, reducing how much impact we have on this site, one of the ways we can do that is a double carabiner type system to hang this bag. So the first carabiner and rope are going to go over the limb.
Okay.
And it's not going to have any load on it. What happens a lot of times if you just use one rope to bring your bag up is the limb gets worn unfortunately there's some impact here because of it.
Now when you say worn, Mike, you mean you throw a rope over the limb, and like if that's my finger, it just wears across there and cuts right into the bark, right?
That's right. So we're not going to use the tree to pull the load up on. We're going to pull the rope up with this carabiner and then pull the load through this loop so that it looks like this. So if that end were tied to the bag, this is tied, pulled up in the tree. Now we're going to be pulling through the carabiner and not across the limb where it wears the bark and causes disease and dead limbs. So let's try to get this up and over. There we go.
Yeah, good throw. And here's our bear bag ready to hang, Mike. So we're going to take this rope and put it through this carabiner that you've hung in the tree.
So we're going to go.
You're going to pull that up without pulling any weight up, right?
That's correct. So don't allow it to pick up the bag yet. We want to be as gentle on the limb as possible. I know it sounds kind of silly, but there's so much use in these areas that eventually those limbs die. So now I'm going to go ahead and tie this first rope. Now all of our weight's going to be in that carabiner. All right, why don't you go ahead and hoist the bear bag first.
Okay, and then we're going to tie it off.
Correct. And if a bear comes through camp, smells our food, it'll be attracted here way away from the tent. It won't be able to reach our food. It can't climb this tree and go out this limb to get our food. So we haven't given a bait to come back in for other campers later on.
Yep. Well, Mike, now that we've shown how to hang a bear bag, let's go look at how to select a tent site and get our tent set up.
I think that's a good idea, Bruce. That's going to be really important. And later tonight as it gets dark, we'll need to hang that bear bag back up.
Absolutely. Tune in next time as we show you how to select a tent site.